My boyfriend's coworker confessed. And now they're getting wasted. Okay. Buckle up. Because the drama I'm about to spill is straight up insane. I'm still reeling. Trying to figure out if I'm overreacting. Or if my gut is screaming for a reason. It all started with what I thought was a missed anniversary celebration. But it spiraled into a whole other level of WTF. Boyfriend 25M and I are coming up on our first anniversary this week. We've both been so swamped with work that the actual date slipped our minds. We usually run our plans by each other. Just in case we were hoping to meet up after work. Since I had failed to connect the dots that his plans were for our anniversary date, I didn't bring it up. I know it sounds silly. But I was upset that we were going to let it pass us by. I felt like it was a shame to not acknowledge it. I know I'm probably being irrational and hypocritical. But I just wished he'd realized it first. Even if I didn't, I felt like I couldn't ask him to cancel. And when I mentioned the anniversary date, he didn't say anything about making plans. I've even considered taking the day off work so we can celebrate since he has the day off. Honestly, I'm not sure what to do or say. One commentator, Amarantha, suggested I shouldn't ask him to change his plans, but instead just let him know I'd like to plan something special soon. They also mentioned it's not necessary to force anything with time constraints. I think part of me just wanted to make it fit on the day. I think I'm just going to leave it and make sure we plan to celebrate another day. Then the situation took a turn for the worse. So, here's update number 1. This is going to be a long one. So please bear with me. My boyfriend to 5M has a coworker, Dave, who had previously expressed his feelings for him. To give some background, Dave is openly gay, and I've met him several times. I never had any issues with him, and we seem to get along just fine. This all started a few months ago. My boyfriend and Dave were dropped off together at Dave's place. I was messaging my boyfriend before bed, and around 3 a.m. he messaged me saying he was on his way home. I was asleep by then. The next morning, I woke up to a message from him after 5 a.m. to say that he was home. I found this a little odd since Dave's place is only about 30 minutes away. I figured maybe he just forgot to text me. When he woke up, I asked him about his night and how late he got home. And I asked if he ended up doing anything after Dave's. He said no and just left it at that. I found it a bit strange but left it alone. Even though his responses were a little out of character. And I could tell he wasn't telling me something. The next date night we had, he finally let it slip that he wasn't telling me everything about that night. He told me that while he was walking home, Dave, who had already gone inside his house since the Uber dropped them off at his place, suddenly started running after him. He told me that Dave confessed to having strong feelings for him for who knows how long. My boyfriend said he was really in shock. Dave asked if any part of him would be interested in trying anything. And my boyfriend said no. He only told me all this after a few days had passed because he thought I might get upset. According to my boyfriend, Dave doesn't know me extremely well. But he was telling my boyfriend that I don't deserve him and he could do much better than me. Amongst other insulting things. This of course upset me. And I felt extremely disrespected. Apparently, Dave and my boyfriend ended up having an hour-long conversation in the rain. He jokingly referred to it as the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for him. I don't really know if my boyfriend offended Dave or made it clear that this type of dialogue isn't okay with him. He definitely shut it down. Though, since then, I've felt very uncomfortable with my boyfriend and Dave's friendship. I don't want to be the type of girlfriend that has a problem with any of her boyfriend's friends. Still, they are constantly together because they work with each other. And my boyfriend often goes out for drinks, etc. with his colleagues. As time goes on, it's getting to me more and more. Yesterday I posted about my boyfriend having made plans with his friends on our anniversary. Basically, yesterday at 6:30 p.m., my boyfriend had made it seem like there was a group who were going to help him make a D&D character. Since my boyfriend's never played before, I only realized this because he had abruptly hung up the phone on me. And he told me he would call me back later when Dave left. I messaged him to ask whether he was serious. Today, we called. And my boyfriend told me that he's extremely hungover and that Dave stayed until about 4 a.m. last night. I asked him WTF happened since it wasn't meant to be a big night. He said they were initially just drinking beers. I asked what they were doing all that time. And he said that it took them about 3 hours to make his D&D character. They gossiped about work. And they listened to music. I didn't say anything further than just asking him what happened last night. This entire situation has seriously bothered me. Call me insecure. But I am not comfortable with my boyfriend spending one-on-one alone time all night with anyone who has expressed deep feelings for him, let alone someone who completely disrespected me in order to try and convince my boyfriend to get with him. I know that my boyfriend is not gay, even if nothing is going to happen. It feels like he's entertaining someone's interest in disrespecting our relationship. Should I speak to my boyfriend about this? What would I even say? A commentator named Ask Soup asked about my boyfriend's identity, and if his religion or background plays a role in this situation. I appreciate the advice and agree that I can't say for 100% certain that he's not gay. But I'm just going off of trust at the moment. This whole scenario doesn't make it easy. Considering, I wouldn't say he grew up in an overly religious family. His mom is Protestant and Baptist. But he refused to be confirmed and doesn't engage in any religious activities. His dad and siblings aren't religious either. So it doesn't seem like it would be a huge issue in the family if he were to play for the other team. But of course, religion may not always be the reason to stay in the closet. I've seen some consensus that he may like the attention. What if it's a personality thing? And he may think it's harmless. I think I will approach it as being more about the drama than anything about his sexuality, as I don't think it would go down well at first. Also, regarding if I've ever spoken to him about Dave before and if she had any concerns, and how she felt about the incident. Oops. The fact that he didn't tell me was a big thing that played on my mind for a while. For now, I'm trusting him and not questioning his sexuality while we are in a relationship. But of course, I'll never be 100% sure. I do want to note that he and I have access to each other's phones and find my friends attractive, or not. Names of sexuality. This was after everything with Dave as well. I do think what you said about him perhaps romanticizing the incident could be spot on. I also felt like you should have kept a greater distance after everything. Maybe I've been too passive about my feelings towards this. Chuck Greenwald theorized that he might be afraid of seeming homophobic, or being accused of that by Dave for rejecting his feelings. It's never occurred to me to consider that. But he is definitely a people pleaser. You might think that's weird. But there are tons of people out there who interpret rejection of their feelings as rejection of their identity and get extremely vicious. Plenty of people have had their lives ruined by someone accusing them of bigotry for not giving in to their feelings. Dave sounds super capable of doing something like that. So if your boyfriend said he was scared of him starting something, I believe it. It's just a theory. But you're right to feel uneasy. I just think your boyfriend might be in a tough spot here, especially if he has any anxiety or people-pleasing tendencies. The commenter's theory has blown my mind. Dave has also recently been promoted to my boyfriend's supervisor. So maybe they could also be a factor. I'm not sure. But what you said is definitely something I'll think about. A commentator mentioned, what if I found out he went out and got drunk and spent the night at her place? It makes no difference, it's a gay man. But your BF seems to like attention. And I wouldn't stick around. If it were a girl, he would know that's not acceptable. So why should it be any different with a guy? Fun_diver__ mentioned that he is compartmentalizing you like to separate lives. And that's not good at all. You desperately need to sit down with him with no distractions. Please let us know what happens. Whoopi_ag says, I've messaged him to say we need to talk. I made it clear that we need to speak tonight. With all the feedback I've got, I'm really not willing to wait any longer to have this out in the open. I'll update once I've had the chat with him. Here's the latest update. Guys, before I get into the update, I just want to say thank you to everyone who shared their advice. My boyfriend and I had a long talk last night about the Dave situation. So, my boyfriend called me immediately after he got home from the D&D hangout. By the time he got home, I was already fired up after reading everyone's perspectives on the situation. And I think I shocked him with how forceful I was from the get-go. I started by saying I am uncomfortable with the fact that Dave stayed over till 4 a.m., one-on-one with him. He seemed surprised and completely oblivious that it would bother me to this level. I told him it's totally unacceptable that he and Dave spent basically the whole night together, when Dave has actively tried to sleep with him and disrespected me, and our relationship in the process. I told him that he needs to have boundaries with Dave. Given all that, his response to this was that Dave said these things a couple of months ago. So it wasn't that serious. I told him. Whether he took it seriously or not. If this was a girl who admitted her feelings for him, I would immediately think something sketchy is going on. Because you don't entertain someone like that when you're in a relationship. Just because Dave is a boy. That doesn't make it okay that he propositions him and talks S about me. He didn't really agree with this argument because he said it's a different situation with a man, regardless if he considers himself straight. How am I meant to trust that things wouldn't happen when Dave has already expressed his desire to have sex with him? He told me he understands my POV. But it wasn't like that. And he didn't plan to have Dave stay that late anyway. I asked him to take me through the entire night and explain to me why they would need to hang out for almost 10 hours. He said that when Dave came over, they worked on his D&D character for about 3 hours. They gossiped about work. They listened to music, etc. I asked him how he could lose track of so much time and insinuated that I don't trust him. He said in terms of the lateness, he didn't ever think the situation was suspicious than that from his perspective. Dave doesn't have feelings for him. So the whole night was innocent. And they were back to being the same friends as they were before Dave's advances. Even if he thinks Dave doesn't have ulterior motives, his behavior needs to change. And boundaries need to be put in place. He told me that initially, when this entire situation happened, he distanced himself from Dave except for when it was at work. Nevertheless, he said they haven't met up one-on-one together for like 2 months. I'm pretty sure they have. But I will concede that he hasn't told me they've been alone at each other's houses since Dave's admission. More so just at the pub, if anything. But I could be wrong. I couldn't remember the specific occasions where I thought they did. Anyway, he said their friendship was different because he told me that they ended up having a chat a few weeks ago, where Dave apologized for what he did, and told him that he didn't mean anything he said about me. He also said he couldn't keep holding it forward for the sake of his partner and relationship. I also asked him why he never told me about this. I said that I always tell him immediately if anyone makes a pass at me, and even used an example of a friend. Let's call him Bill, who had touched me in a sexual way on a night out and said to my best friend that he had feelings for me while he was on holiday, both of which I invited my boyfriend to. He said that I only heard it from my best friend, and Bill never verbally said he had feelings for me, insinuating it's the same situation as him and Dave, which I thought was ridiculous, and told him he's just trying to find a loophole. I asked him if he would be okay with me and Bill spending all night together getting drunk. He said obviously not. But again, I told him that doesn't mean it'll be okay for me to do that as long as I wait a couple weeks, months. We continued going back and forth. He apologized for making me feel upset and uncomfortable and said that it was never his intention. He also apologized if he came off defensive. He said maybe he's been naive and oblivious to Dave's potential motives. He asked me if I wanted him to cut off Dave completely because he's not sure how he can do that, given his work situation. He said it's kind of sad because Dave had been a good friend to him, and they get along. I told him that if Dave was a good friend, he wouldn't have put him in this position. This isn't something I wanted to happen. I've always wanted to have a good relationship with his friends. But it's not my fault at the end of the day. He told me that he has no problem with doing that or putting more boundaries in place. He just wasn't aware that this was something that bothered me this much. He also said that since he's looking for a new job, it will become easier to set boundaries then. We did touch on other things during this conversation. It was about 2 a.m. at this point, and I work in the morning. We are going to speak more again tonight and hopefully resolve other things. Again, I want to thank everyone for their feedback. I don't think I would have been brave enough to discuss this if most of you didn't validate my feelings. Cultural_shape3518 added that it's also more difficult for him now that Dave is his supervisor. Honestly, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. If he isn't happy with Dave, he can't just turn off the friendship. I understand that possibility might not make the idea of alienating him any less scary. But your boyfriend needs to recognize he can't use his work situation as his excuse, and simultaneously claim you shouldn't have any issues with Dave. I totally agree with that. It seems oblivious to Dave's potential motives. I hope I made him aware of how wrong they both are to try and continue their friendship without boundaries. Also, apparently, some started calling him beef, which is slang for that he is cute in the workplace, which is extremely inappropriate. I honestly don't understand how he could be friends with him. He seems awful to me. My boyfriend probably plays it off like it's nothing. But he does have slight body image issues. Finally, Sing 404 asks if my BF knows he's being nagged and sexually objectified. So, after hearing all of this, did I handle the situation correctly? Was I too harsh? Not harsh enough. Should I have handled things differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on how I approached this whole mess. I really value the advice I've gotten so far, and I'm open to hearing anything you all have to say.